Throughout the 1970s, Barry Letts served as a writer, director and producer on Doctor Who and is hailed by many fans of the series as its greatest hidden asset. Jon Pertwee was the Time Lord when he took control of the series, and it was Barry Letts who cast his successor and allowed Tom Baker to take the character in a new, more eccentric direction. I spoke to Tom Baker about his time as a Time Lord. He was keen to point out that Barry Letts himself was a fine and prolific actor, starring in films including The Cruel Sea.
The whole of television seemed to be staffed entirely by producers, directors and script editors and people like that. Were all actors, because where did the original people come from? At that time, you see, when television got going, the only people that knew anything about theatricality and plays were actors. So lots of the producers had been actors in their day. I remember seeing Barry, I think, in The Cruel Sea. He was the big link in changing my entire life, really, because he it was who decided on to cast me in Doctor Who. It was left down to Barry Letts deciding to employ me or not. He was very anxious at the time because replacing Jon Pertwee was considered a big hurdle. And then it just so happened that there was a film I was in, a special effects film called The Golden Voyage of Sinbad, right next door to the BBC. And Barry went next door to see it and saw me playing some old wizard. And I was on.
Nothing to worry about.
Suffocation is nothing to worry about.
We can survive for quite a time yet.
While you play with that yo-yo.
Just a simple gravity reading, Sarah. Yes. Almost certainly we're in some kind of artificial satellite. Now, isn't that interesting?
Not very.
I think it is.
It's dark, it's cold, and it's getting very airless.
All we've got to do is get the power back on. Let's see what's over here.
He filled me with great confidence. He was a good man, you know, a really good man.
Did he bring any of his philosophical or spiritual beliefs to the production? Because, I mean, there is some people think that in the 70s it pioneered issues of ecological disaster, and the Doctor was coming to grips with some of the looming issues of the day.
Well, I mean, he wouldn't have... he was too sensitive to have said any of that explicitly, but I mean, there were several stories, weren't there, where people were, you know, groups of people, monasteries or old nuns or whatever, sisterhoods, you know, strange orders where they believed in strange things and believed in the power of light or eternal flames and things like that, all of which, you know, is quasi-religious. But of course he did those with very great style.
In The Demons, we blew up a church, and we blew it up so successfully that we had letters saying they thought it was disgusting that the BBC should destroy a lovely old church just for a show. Well, of course, we didn't.
And what about his direction? Did he encourage you to take the Doctor in a different direction to the one that Jon Pertwee had steered him?
Well, no, you know, he was very subtle, really. You know, he sort of tried to induce from people their way of doing it without actually sort of saying, look, it's got to be different from the other fellow. I mean, I was necessarily different, even though, of course, the problem was, and Barry understood it, the writers were still writing in a style for Jon Pertwee's character.
He encouraged you to bring your character to the Doctor.
Well, I mean, the point is, you know, the Doctor Who isn't really an acting part, is it? Because no more than Sherlock Holmes. And
Barry Letts employed you as Sherlock Holmes, though, didn't he?
He did, because he always saw me as playing Sherlock Holmes, and I was not good in it. The BBC apologised for my performance. They didn't like it at all. So Barry actually was mistaken there. His intuition betrayed him. He was a gentleman, you know, that old-fashioned gentleman, but so kind, so kind. There's no substitute for kindness, is there really?
Tom Baker on Doctor Who producer Barry Letts.